Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
All right, in today's episode, Trey is going to rank all 12 projected starting quarterbacks in the Pac-12, and Ryan and I are going to point out where he is dead wrong. Maybe the best group of quarterbacks of any conference. We'll get to that maybe as we go through it. Trey, why don't you start us off with number 12?
I agree. The Pac-12 is kind of loaded with some QB talent and some good teams this year, I think. But number 12 at Stanford, Ari Patu. He, there's a lot of new going on for the Cardinal this year after their 3-9 season last year. They got a new coach, Troy Taylor, who replaces longtime coach David Shaw. Obviously, a new quarterback here after Tanner McKee left. So it looks like could be Patu, he's been a backup the last couple years. Only has 25 pass attempts, so not a lot to go on. And it's a battle, too, because there's Ashton Daniels. Miles Jackson is a freshman in the most recent class. But the Cardinal, it's going to be a transition here.
Yeah, they're in the running for worst Power 5 team, but I believe in Troy Taylor. I don't know. I love what he did at lower levels.
Maybe not just year one, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, moving on to number 11, Stanford's Bay Area rival Cal comes in next with Sam Jackson, the fifth. He's a TCU transfer. He was backed up Max Duggan and Chandler Morris, of course. Cal also brought in Ben Finley from NC State, but it looks like Jackson should get the gig. Their offense has been very poor recently, but Wilcox brought in Jake Spavital. He's led good offenses in his past as an offensive coordinator at Texas A&M, West Virginia, Cal. Jackson here, he's a dual threat talent, showcased it in some limited opportunities, of course, at TCU. He has the higher upside than Finley, but we'll see if he can pull it all together consistently and be able to be a threat with his arm.
Yeah, those NorCal QBs, I agree with you, 11-12.
Unfortunately, we'll see. Jackson's exciting, but we'll see if he can do it.
Yeah,
that's all right. We got number 10, Dante Moore of UCLA. Moore is difficult to rank because number one, he's not even really guaranteed to be the starter at this point. You got productive transfer from Kent State, Colin Schlee. He's there giving the Bruins a pretty solid floor, if you ask me. And then you got Ethan Garbers as well. The second reason, though, that he's hard to rank is he's a true freshman. Obviously, we don't have much to go on other than his pedigree. He was a 5-star player in this class after they flipped him from Oregon late. Talent-wise and how, athletically gifted he is, he's probably top 5 in the league in that regard. But, we just got to see if he can put it together in year one, especially with the Bruins losing some of their key contributors on offense.
Yeah, this is probably where I would also put Dante Moore if that's the projected starter, just because freshman, even though it's Chip Kelly, great coach, going to be a good offensive system, so it might hit. But weirdly, like if you told me Colin Schlee was going to be the starter, just because he has that track record of being pretty good at Kent State, I would have him maybe a few slots higher. But
yeah, I hear what you're saying. I agree with that. All right, number 9. Drew Pine, Arizona State. Now, this is a full quarterback room. You could make a case for 4 guys there, but I'll say Pine wins the job. He was respectable for Notre Dame last year. When Tyler Buckner went down, Pine ended up going 8-2 as a starter. He did have some, somewhat modest numbers, but 65% completions, 22 touchdowns to 6 picks, pretty efficient. He doesn't necessarily scream like he's going to put up massive numbers, but in this ranking, I'm kind of factoring in a potential bump from Kenny Dillingham. Dillingham got Bo Nix to put up incredible numbers in his stint as the Oregon offensive coordinator. Not saying he's going to do that with Drew Pine, but I think maybe he could elevate Pine's game a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a good call. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
All right, moving on to number 8, Shadur Sanders of Colorado. Here's another tough one to rank because, he put up video game numbers at Jackson State, 70 touchdowns in his 2 seasons, but now he is obviously taking a dramatic leap in competition. It's going to be fascinating to see how his game translates not only to FBS, but also, within the Power 5. And it kind of like maybe you could argue going from minor league to, the majors, the big leagues. Add in the fact that, we all know that the roster at Colorado has been completely flipped by his dad, Dion. So, will this offensive line be good enough to give him some protection? Will there be production around him? Can they put up numbers? He's got the talent, but now we have to see if he can do it in this situation.
Colorado's going to be such an interesting team this year. Like, I might be looking forward to them, more than any other team to watch. Just like they could be pretty bad. Like they're probably not going to be very good, but it's still going to just be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, and I think the offensive side of the ball has the potential to actually not be bad. Like I think the defense.
Yeah, I think it'll be better than defense. Yeah,
offense could be decent. It kind of depends on Shedeur, I
guess.
Good
coordinator, good QB, supposedly. But.
Yeah. Sean Lewis. I like Sean Lewis as the offensive coordinator.
Shedeur has a huge range though, because like we saw, well, I think you might be getting to him soon, but like Cam Ward coming from FCS, and I think was even, played better competition than Shedeur, and he had insanely good numbers. I think even better than Shedeur, and went to Wazoo, and it's fine, but nothing crazy, and so you just don't know what to expect.
Yep.
So you perfect segue, okay. Mike. Cameron Ward of Washington State at number 7. So you touched on it. He came in with some very lofty expectations last year. I was honestly one of them, thinking he'd be great. But I do think a lot of people, in my opinion, kind of just ignore that. I think he still had a decent season, over 3,200 yards, 65% completions, 28 total touchdowns. Like he wasn't a train wreck or anything. He just didn't quite live up, obviously, to the billing. Now he gets the Western Kentucky offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, who just led Austin Reed to a year where he led the nation in passing yards. So I think Ward's attempts will go up. Maybe his, we'll see how that translates. And you got to remember, Ward, similar to what we were talking about with Sanders, he was acclimating to the jump from FCS Incarnate Word to Power 5. And at the time, it was a new coach with Jake Dickert. I think he can improve maybe in year 2 here. He's comfortable. He knows what to expect and have a season that maybe some thought he would last year.
Yep, he's solid. I like it.
All right. Number 6. This one, I don't know where people kind of fall on this, but DJ Uiagalelei of Oregon State. At first blush, when I was just kind of thinking about this big picture, I didn't think I would have him maybe this high. But as I dug into it, I kind of came around to him being up here. Obviously, we all know his story, being, he's supposed to be the next great Clemson quarterback, but, that just didn't quite pan out. We know he's shown flashes of some of his brilliance that he has, but he's also shown the other side of some frustrating moments. I do like the fact that he's going to be under the tutelage of one of our favorite coaches, Jonathan Smith. I kind of believe in the Beavers system. I think he could thrive there. Smith will be able to use his athleticism with his legs. And I personally just think this might be a case for a new environment and slightly less pressure. He could, elevate his game and potentially thrive. I mean, you look at last year's numbers, he still put up 2,500 yards, 22 total touchdowns, ran for over 500 yards, actually had 29 total touchdowns, 22 passing, 7 rushing. Yes, he does need to be more consistent, but I'm bullish on the Beavers this year and Smith. So I think he can kind of get DJU to rebound.
I think the Beavers the last couple of years just haven't had a decent enough quarterback. I think they've kind of struggled with. I mean, a couple of years back, Chance Nolan had a decent year, but Nolan doesn't have the physical tools that DJU does. I think DJU gives them quite a bit of a different option, a little bit. Maybe they'll be able to open it up a little bit more for him. Like a few years back, they had Jake Luton, who put up some pretty darn big numbers. Not saying Uiagalelei could replicate that, but I think Smith
he could be Jake Luton level. I think, yeah.
All right, well there you go. See, I mean, maybe, but I that's what I think. Like I just think Uiagalelei is his skill level and his abilities, like his arm, his running, is better than what they've had the last couple of years at quarterback.
Yeah, and Ryan, we talked about it before Trey hopped on while we were before the episode, and we said exactly what Trey said in there. Like before you looked at the rankings, I would not have expected to put DJU 6
in the top half.
Yeah, I'm just like, I just don't have a high opinion of him after. But then when you look at it, it's like, well, who am I going to put ahead of him? And I think Trey put him in the right spot here.
I agree.
I appreciate that, guys. We're on the same wavelength.
Yep.
All right. So now we get to the top 5, and I think this top 5 was, and we kind of talk about it. It's, I think, fairly straightforward and a pretty dang good top 5 compared to some of the other conferences. Jaden DeLora of Arizona. He was 3rd last year in the conference with almost 3,700 yards passing. He threw for 400 or more 3 different times last year. 29 total touchdowns. He clearly helped turn around the offense in Tucson. They went from scoring 17 points a game to 30. And now we're in year 2 under Jed Fish, and his influence maybe could lead to an even better season for DeLora. He is, I mean, part of the reason you like him is he's a bit of a gunslinger. So it makes him fun to watch, but at the same time, he has thrown a lot of picks. If he can kind of hone that in a little bit, and clean it up, he could definitely get maybe the Wildcats to go bowling.
Surprisingly, it's Jed Fish's 3rd year.
Yeah. Okay.
It feels like 2nd though. The first year was kind of such a horrible year. They were 1-11. They were just god awful.
Yeah, that's right.
But then DeLora came in.
Year 2 of DeLora.
Exactly. Yeah. Fish has done a great job.
Yeah.
Surprising.
Got a huge recruit recently too.
Yeah.
I think
the edge.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I think this is the clear spot for DeLora, though. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
All right. Number 4, Cameron Rising of Utah. And this is where the list gets even better. I personally might have put Rising a notch higher, but I'm staying cautious as he's coming off a torn ACL in the Rose Bowl. We don't know necessarily when he'll be 100%. He's not flashy, won't put up these insane numbers, but he's just a dude. He plays tough. Hard to bring down when he runs. He's won back-to-back Pac-12 titles. You know, even though he doesn't put up these insane numbers, he's still very good. Threw for over 3,000 yards, completes 2/3 of his passes, 32 touchdowns, 6 yards per carry on the ground. And when I'm looking at Utah, the offensive line looks to be a strength for him. I like the backs that they have this year to help him, Jackson and Bernard. He gets key targets back to throw to, Devon Vele, Money Parks, Brant Keithy's back.
Yeah, Keithy's nice to have back.
For him, just getting back to full strength is the key.
I hope he does. His running was a pretty big piece of what he's done the last couple of years. So I hope he can. They got a pretty huge game right out of the gate, Florida. But it's like, God, I just wish it sucks, but I just wish he didn't have that ACL in the bowl game.
Yeah. If he's a little bit hobbled, which I think we've seen before, it really takes an aspect away from his game.
Yeah.
All right. Number 3, Bo Nix of Oregon. He dramatically changed the narrative on himself with his performance last year. Much of the year he was in the Heisman discussion. Did it through the air and on the ground. All purpose, had over 4,000 yards, 43 total touchdowns, like over 70% completions. I guess for me, it'll be interesting to see how his production is going to change with his offensive coordinator, Kenny Dillingham, taking the head job at Arizona State. I personally don't think he's all of a sudden going to be a bum, since he has 4 years of experience, year 2 of his situation at Oregon with, very good pieces around him. But I am curious to see if there is a drop off at all.
Yeah. Last year it went about as good as you could have possibly imagined for him after seeing him for 3 years at Auburn, just being an average QB those 3 years, barely improving, if you look at the numbers and stuff. But it's crazy. Boom. It's also a good indication of just situations, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just like, dude, there's so many quarterbacks out there that they're done playing college and they were probably really, really good, but they just weren't in the right situation. It's like, oh man,
it's huge. Like there's a million examples you could point to, but one I just think of is Gardner Minshew. Like he was this close to just transferring to Alabama and just starting his coaching career. Yeah. And then decided at the last second to go play for Mike Leach, and boom, NFL. Like completely changed his life. And that's what's happening for Bo Nix right now, potentially. Like if he has another big year, he could be a decent NFL draft pick.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Right.
That's why you see so many guys transferring, I guess. It's just like they're hoping for that,
get the right spot.
Well, Joe Burrow, another example.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great example.
Though
but even him,
even him, it was a coaching change though. Kind of. It was the
situation still. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Who was the OC that came? Well, he was co-OC.
Brady.
Joe Brady. Yeah,
Joe Brady. Yeah.
All right, number 2, Michael Penix of Washington. I mean, he would probably be number 1 on most other conference lists, but he's second in the nation last year in passing yards, 8.5 yards per attempt. He clearly thrives in Kalen DeBoer's system. We saw him do well at Indiana, now at Washington with him. I guess really everyone in DeBoer's system does well.
Hayner.
He has, for when you look at Penix, he has 2 potential all Pac-12 receivers to throw to, Jalen McMillan, Rome Odunze. They were, as a team, they were 7th in scoring last year. I don't really see why they wouldn't put up similar numbers this year with Penix back leading the charge under DeBoer and that supporting cast. Penix was great.
Yeah. They're gonna be fun to watch. The USC Washington game this year is one of my most anticipated games that I want to watch. It's like because they didn't play last year, but now you got 2 elite offenses and elite QBs. It's at USC, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Maybe I'll go to that. Let's go, Mike.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's Penix is a lock to put up monster numbers if healthy. Like there's nothing stopping it.
Yeah. And then number 1, pretty easy choice, Caleb Williams, SC. Obviously the reigning Heisman winner, future number 1 pick. His numbers were just ridiculous. He has you watch him, he has such command of Lincoln Riley's offense. It's amazing to watch. He can run too. They bring in Dorian Singer, a productive receiver, to help the receiving core. And he just kind of looks like Patrick Mahomes out there. You don't have to be a serious college football fan to understand how good he is. Like the average person can kind of just see it when you see him on the field. Like he just has that it factor. You could go on and on, but no need.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I just took a look at USC's schedule, and as far as the preseason rankings, they play Washington number 12, Notre Dame number 13, Utah number 14, Oregon number 15. So they play 12, 13, 14, 15 as far as preseason rankings.
And all in the second half of the year, right?
Yeah. It's a tough second half, yes.
Okay, so here is Trey's overall list. Ryan, what any thoughts you have looking at it?
I mean, I wish I could hate on it, but I can't. I think he pretty much got it right. Like I'm trying to think of if I would have changed anything. Nah, I wouldn't have. Like, this is pretty much exactly the list I probably would have come up with. I don't know. I'm not a big Drew Pine guy. Maybe I would put Dante Moore because I think he's got more potential, and I like Chip Kelly's system. Yeah. But I mean, that he is a true freshman though, so that's.
How about that? Like, is there a guy? Or Michael, what are your thoughts?
Well, I pretty much echo Ryan's sentiment. No major changes, but if we're looking at that top 4, which I think we all agree is the best top 4 of any conference, like it has to be. I might have put Bo Nix ahead of Michael Penix. This is a minor, they're close, but just because I think Bo Nix had a much better. I think he had a better year last year. Like he was a bit more efficient through the air, and he adds the ground game. He adds a lot of value on the ground. So, but at the same time, there's more change with Bo Nix. Like he's got a new offensive coordinator now, and some changes up front on the O-line. So it's like, I think Bo Nix has a higher ceiling. But Penix has the higher floor just because of there's no changes there. But yeah, minor. What were you gonna say though, Trey?
I was just gonna, I guess it's more for maybe even the viewers or listeners. I'd be interested to hear like of maybe say the top 5 and bottom 5. Like who's a guy you think is going to be worse by the end of the year, and who's a guy that's probably going to be better, like that I missed.
I think whoever UCLA's quarterback is will probably rise.
Yeah, that's probably the in that section. But if you told me like Cam Ward had a big, I don't know. It's tough. I made the list, so it'd be hard for me to.
Drew Pine maybe could rise up just because of Kenny Dillingham. I mean, Pine had decent enough numbers last year at Notre Dame, and Dillingham's proven, at least last year, he can make a decent quarterback and look really, really good. So maybe Pine could do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but same with the guys ahead of him, the right ahead of him, like Shedeur Sanders, ton of potential there. Cam Ward in year 2. Yeah, so it's tough. But yeah, the 6 through 10 is the tough range to rank.
Yeah, it is.
You could
shuffle
put that
it
in a lot of different orders.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as I look at this list and if we're thinking about which conference has the best quarterbacks, it's hard because the bottom of this list isn't necessarily. I don't know if
once you get past the
goes
top
deep.
5, it's DJU. I mean, he could be pretty good at an Oregon State, but we've seen him kind of struggle at Clemson. I mean, relatively.
Yeah, I think other conferences could compare 6 through 12, but I'm not sure anyone has a top 5 like this.
No, it's pretty dang solid.
SEC is pretty good. We'll get to that next, but I probably would have to go.
But not as good as years past.
I mean, just because Alabama and Georgia aren't so certain, but we got other QBs: KJ Jefferson, Jaden Daniels, Will Rogers.
Hey,
those are 3.
Whoa! No,
proven. Yeah, not spoiling. They're there. They know who they are.
Yeah, you're just naming people.
Joe Milton could have a big year. He's in Tennessee's situation. Yeah. So Rattler finished the season amazing.
Brian's just gonna do the SEC episode right now.
Okay, but
I'm not saying which order I have them.
But I don't think any of those guys, like all those guys you listed, they might be 5th. The best guy might be 5th.
Yeah, like
on this list.
No, I disagree.
Well, I mean, okay, let's say we're talking. I'll just
look what Bo Nix did for 3 years at Auburn.
True.
I would probably have a few guys in the SEC ahead of Bo Nix.
Really, a few
and probably
guys?
And Penix, yeah.
I
think
Caleb
and Penix. I have a few guys ahead of Penix.
Maybe 2 guys. Maybe 2 guys in front of Penix.
Well, we'll get an answer here because we're gonna do the SEC next episode, and then we'll do the.
I just think it's pretty close. I think it's closer than maybe, like SEC's good. They got really good defense.
No, but that's fine. That's expected. The Pac-12 doesn't get that. Like their I don't know. National narrative is they aren't as deep and as good. And this year they have a really good crop.
No, they do. It's true. It's close. I think it's close.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
We're gonna put them all together a couple episodes from now when we do our top 10, top
that's going to be interesting. Yeah.
However deep we go. Yeah. Then you're gonna really see, Ryan, how many SEC quarterbacks are you putting ahead of?
Well, I said maybe. It's close.
Okay.
Gotta hedge a little bit now.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thanks for watching and listening to this episode of the College Football Bros. As always, if you enjoy the podcast, want to support us, we'd really appreciate subscriptions to our Patreon, patreon.com/collegefootballbros. But other than that, we will see you next time.